Good morning, everyone. Join me in the pledge. Pledge of allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and I thank you for the beautiful weather. I just pray for safety for all the county employees and the county residents. Give all glory and honor and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Make a motion, we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion, we approve the claims in the amount of $130,941.65.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any adds and waits? Anybody have any changes to the agenda?
Hold on. Jesse is here today.
Jesse will be running late.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Late from that, you said, or?
He's not
Could
here
be.
quite yet, but he's going to be here as soon as possible.
Okay, okay.
I had a few things for him, but nothing for executive session, so I think I'm good.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as written, or the agenda is written.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Lisa?
Lisa Kelstack, County Appraiser. Wasn't that nice of me to help you?
Yeah,
Fine.
we need a little push sometimes. It's fine.
I'm just here to report I've hired another new employee, April Umpenhauer. I want to start her at a rate of 8A, the 17.9905, as an Appraiser 1.
Okay.
You need a motion. I'll make that motion. I move we hire April Umfenauer at 8A 17.9905, Appraiser 1.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Want to read the sheriff's report?
Yes. Sheriff's report for May 12th, 2025. Total prisoners of 57. Total prisoners in of 54. Total farmed out of 3. Farmed in of 39. 911 calls of 68. Calls for service of 424. Total jail contacts of 4,768. Bailiff contacts of 182 at 23, resulting for calls for service. New cases 29, cases closed 5, civil service papers served of 10, vet inspections 13, livestock out 5, SRO activities 104 calls for service, and motor vehicle accidents 7.
Somebody have the AMR not here? I guess somebody have a report pulled up or?
I do. Data for May 1st through May 11th for AMR. Lacine, 11 calls, 7 transports. Linn Valley, 3 calls, 1 transport. Mound City, 12 calls for 5 transports. Parker, 6 for 2. Pleasanton, 9 for 6 for a total of 41 calls with 21 transports, and the average response time of 16 minutes and 22 seconds.
Okay. Randy?
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Higwold, Linn County Emergency Management and Rural Fire. last week's call totals, we had 13 total calls, brings our yearly total up to 273. I'd like permission to hire Easton Anderson as probationary fireman for Pleasanton Station 920. He's been serving as a junior firefighter. This will bring our total to 22 out of 22 spots at that station. And that's pending pre-employment physical and drug screening.
I'll make that motion. We hire Easton Anderson at Pleasanton Station 920.
I'll second that. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Commissioners, I'd like to ask for permission to send out and advertise to take sealed bids on 5 plastic UTV tanks, 7 aluminum UTV tanks, and then we have 2 Ford Excursions and 1 Suburban. I'd like to advertise and accept bids on, try to get rid of those vehicles. We received the trucks that we bought in November, so we're able to rotate those Excursions out, and we're to the point we can try to get rid of them. The tanks and the vehicles, I've had a lot of just local interest, so I would like to just advertise them local on Facebook and in the newspaper and take sealed bids and open them up in a couple weeks.
And that's the tanks we took off.
Yeah, so the plastic ones are the ones that were replaced by the aluminum tanks, and then aluminum tanks we replaced with the newer plastic tanks. So they just been sitting outside behind our office, and we've had a lot of interest on them. Farmers wanting to make fuel tanks and stuff out of them. So I think it's stuff that we can get decent money out of just doing locally.
So do you have what is it we always do?
Yeah. I went to send Danielle the VIN numbers and stuff so we can do that. And my computer keyboard quit working, so I did not get that done. I get those to her this afternoon. So we can either wait until next week and have all that listed, or I can get it to her later today. So.
And I mean, in the past here, we've been sending everything to Purple Wave, Big Iron, something along those lines, trying to get a broader base as far as our bids.
And that's up to you, the commissioners. Like I said, I've had a lot of local interest in them. So I was just going, and we can put on there that we have the right to refuse or accept any bids. So if it's one of those things, we do it locally and we don't like we think it come in $100 or whatever, then we can reject it and send it to Purple Wave. But we at least put it out there for that.
What's the best way to do it, Jacqueline? Do you think?
I think just allowing the open bids is the best practice.
The open bids to everyone?
Yes.
Not on a website,
We can also post it on the website as long as it's
But I mean-
available
I mean,
to the
like-
public.
Purple Wave or something that way instead of just newspaper and
That's what she's-
Facebook.
I mean, I think any and all of these options are best
yeah.
practices. Yeah.
I know Purple Wave, they only do vehicles. So the tanks we wouldn't be able to do on Purple Wave anymore.
They only do vehicles now.
Yeah.
They would put them on Big Iron. They would.
Big Iron, I think the sheriff's office used GovBid or something like that. So if you'd rather go that route, we can do that.
I'd like to see everything first give it to Danielle, bring it back next week.
Okay. You want pictures of everything?
I mean, that would be helpful for me. I don't know about you guys. I would personally like to see that.
No, that's no problem. So,
That'd be good, and then you can bring it back to us next week.
okay,
Okay.
no problem. That is all I have unless you guys have questions.
Meeting tonight, you're attending that in Pleasanton?
Yes.
Okay. I'll probably be there as well.
Randy, I've had some phone calls. Could you explain that a little bit, what's going on there? I mean, as far as the mutual aid agreement,
So,
explain it all to us, would you? Just to everybody, because there's questions out there.
yeah. So Linn County Rural Fire District number 1 has, they had automatic aid agreements with the 3 other fire departments in the county. They're all 3 city fire departments, Lynn Valley, Lacine, and Pleasanton. Those expired in 2018. We found that out late 2022. We started working on automatic and mutual aid agreements. 2 of the entities sent aid agreements to us. Commissioners and myself reviewed them. We sent back a mutual aid agreement for them to look at. All 3 cities now have that mutual aid agreement to look at. Pleasanton was the first one to get that back to review. At that time, the city has went the direction of whether they want to keep their fire department or not. The county has really nothing to do with that, other than we're just waiting for them to either sign that mutual aid agreement or come back with a response to that mutual aid agreement that we have given them, and then go from there to see what kind of agreement they want with their fire department and Linn County Rural Fire District.
And I realize we have no control over what Pleasanton does. They're in full control of it. But my question was to Randy, after I've had these phone calls, is how much is the county providing to Pleasanton now? And that's,
So kind of break it down over the last couple of years, I was asked kind of the same question. So I went in and pulled the call and run totals and everything. For 2023, Pleasanton Fire Department was paged to 26 calls. They responded to 4 of those calls. The county responded to 20 of them. Now, 20 and 26 don't add up. Some of those calls may have been like medical calls that the ambulance or something, law enforcement showed up and said, hey, we got the person picked up. Go ahead and cancel fire before we ever went en route. So that's kind of the just discrepancy from 20 versus 26. So 2023, it was 26 calls. County ran 20 of those calls. The city ran 4. 2024, there's 31 calls. The city ran 10 of those. The county ran 18. So far in 2025, there's been 18 calls. The city has ran 6 of those. The county has run 10. So I kind of looked at an average. I didn't go and pull the numbers. So on average, a Pleasanton call, we get 5 firefighters per call, and that's not counting the 2 salaries. That's just what we're paying. And you figure that $35 per person per call. That's what we're paying out in wages, not counting fuel or anything like that. So
what happens at the other 2 that we do for the
the other 2 departments, we're usually the second ones there. They respond. We haven't had any incidents where they didn't respond, and we're usually the second department there. They're taking care of stuff. They started that process, and they have the individuals there taking care of whatever. Some of those numbers have changed and went down because we started having dispatch do our SOGs. So we have an SOGs with AMR, and dispatch says, hey, for this kind of incident, we're going to page 1 station. This kind of incident, we're going to do 2. This kind, we're going to do 3. So some of that calls have went down where, hey, maybe just 1 station needing paged. They don't show up, then we page another station. So, so like the other 2, if it's a medical call, that's one of them. That's just a 1 station page. They're going taking care of it, and we're not being paged on that. So, and even without the aid agreements, all 3 of them, we're responding anytime we're paged. If we're paged, we're sending trucks and crews there.
So, and like, with the city of Pleasanton, you said that they responded to 10 calls last year and we responded to 18. Are our 18 overlapping with their 10?
Some of them do. So like if it was a structure call, structure fire, both departments may have been at that call.
So, but we're not responding to every call?
No, because some of them, like I said, some of them may have been, hey, the police got there and it was somebody that fell out of bed between
Right.
ambulance and,
But I meant fire calls. We're responding to every fire call.
we're responding to every fire call.
Okay, that's what I wanted clarified.
Yeah, if something's on fire, we've responded to every
At all
one of those.
three places.
Mhm.
Yep, okay.
With the other two departments on the mutual aid agreements, do you have copies of those?
It's the same mutual aid agreement that,
I had in your, I didn't know if it was different
Yeah.
because I thought you said they provided us with a mutual aid agreement. So
So-
I was thinking they sent you a mutual aid agreement.
so Lacine sent a mutual aid agreement. We reviewed it and then went back with them with ours saying, hey, this is what we would like to see.
Okay.
I have not heard back from Dan on that one.
So, no, you're fine.
So tonight Pleasanton's gonna have the board,
And it's their
council
second, yeah, it's
to
their second,
determine what they're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
hopefully.
Anybody have
So
anything?
we do not have an automatic aid agreement with Lacine or Lynn Valley, right?
There's no aid agreements right now. And
Just what we do through the state.
yeah, it's just, and we're kind of run on a modified mutual aid agreement because if it's a structure fire in any of those three towns, we're just automatically getting paged because of those SOGs that says, hey, send 3 stations. So we're automatically, we don't have an automatic aid agreement, but we are acting in that way on some things.
That's my question, because when I talked with the council, some of the members, I was under the impression that they were interested in possibly looking into the automatic aid. So this is where I guess I go. Automatic aid agreement is completely off the table. Completely off.
That is what we've sent to them was the mutual aid agreement. And that's
Right.
what myself and the commissioners have talked about and they approved.
So the commissioners prior to me being in here approved only mutual aids. We're not going to go back to automatic aid agreement at all. Is that correct? I don't know what you guys approved before me, so.
We haven't approved any.
We sent them a copy of what our mutual aid was, right?
Right.
So my understanding, you guys, is that at this point, the agreements between the cities and the county have expired. And so we're operating under the mutual aid agreement through the state of Kansas statutes.
Correct.
So now we are renewing the agreements, and some of the cities, Pleasanton being one, has inquired about the automatic aid agreement. And a mutual aid agreement. And so those are two different things. And it's up to you all the extent to which you're willing to extend a mutual aid agreement or an automatic aid agreement to these cities. Randy, of course, makes his recommendation as the chief for the county, and you all can determine whether to agree to a mutual aid agreement or an automatic aid agreement.
When I hear Randy speak, he's saying we're acting, we have a mutual aid agreement, but we are acting as automatic aid.
Yeah, because we're not going to leave a town out hanging
Right.
on fire.
So,
If somebody's house is on fire and we get paged, or somebody falls on the floor or CPR, we get paged, we're responding, no matter what city it's in. And we're not going to leave the fire departments hanging up because there's no agreement there. The citizens need it no matter where they're at. If we're paged, we're going. But we do need to get these aid agreements signed in effect.
when there's a fire in Lacine, do you get called out as well? You get paged.
Myself
Let's say
or
there's
the
a
county
structure
fire
fire in
department.
Lacine, and they're responding to their structure fire in Lacine.
Yes, so right now, the dispatch SOGs are, if it's a structure fire, it's 3 stations being paged.
Okay.
So the 3 closest stations, no matter where that structure is in the county, the 3 closest stations are getting paged to it. So
So you-
yes, we are getting paged, whether it's Lynn Valley, Lacine, or Pleasanton, Linn County Rural District is getting paged to that fire.
3 of the county stations get paged, or 3 with
total.
3 stations. So if it's in Blue Mountain, the closest 3 stations to Blue Mountain are getting paged. If it's in Lacine, the 3 closest stations to Lacine are getting
Including
paged.
Lacine.
including Lacine being one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
I
And
feel
if it's in Parker, the 3 closest stations are getting paged, and that could include Lacine?
So the last agreement was 5 miles for Lacine. It was 5 miles from the city of Lacine was 5 miles is what they would respond to.
Okay.
So Parker will be Parker,
if you had a
Centerville,
structure,
and the Lacine County Station.
okay.
And these mutual aids with Lacey and Lynn Valley are filed with the clerk.
She has a copy of them. It should be on the share drive.
Okay.
They're just blank mutual aid.
They're not completed.
They're
Yeah.
not signed yet.
They're not even dated. They don't have the city's name or anything.
It's a
They're-
draft.
Yeah, it's a draft where they can look at it and say, hey, we like this, we're gonna sign it, or hey, we want to add this or that, take this away, we don't like this. It's a working copy that they can look at and work through there.
So the mutual aid agreement that you emailed us last week, that is just a blank copy. You're saying Lacey and Lynn Valley didn't have a problem with it.
No, they have them. They're
They
reviewing
have
them
not
now.
responded with it.
Yeah.
That's what
I
we
think
said
that we
to
just need to
them.
put it on the agenda to circle back after tonight.
As soon as Lacey or Lynn Valley comes back and says they signed it or whatever, I'll bring it to you guys because you still have to approve it and sign off on it then. So
I guess my personal opinion when I was there, I'm not understanding why the automatic aid agreement isn't still on the table. And I think that I need to be clear, like from other commissioners, what I'm saying is accurate. So I'm kind of like, is automatic aid on the table or no? It's just mutual aid agreement on the table.
well, I think part of that
And
prior,
explain the difference to the people.
Yeah.
so automatic aid is
We're running their fire department. Or
no,
not.
no matter what they get paged to, we're getting paged. So if it was a medical or something like that, we're automatically getting paged to it. And it may have been something that fire department could have handled locally, didn't need the county's help. So there's a lot of stuff, gas leaks and stuff like that. And that's part of that mutual aid agreement is we're not automatically getting paged to that lift
So the
assist
gas
or
leaks
something like that.
Situations like that, just the city fire departments get
Right.
engaged, and then
Where an automatic aid agreement, no matter when the tones drop, you're automatically going to that. With the mutual aid agreement, you can tailor it to fit what you need, where kind of match the SOGs where, okay, we have a lift assist. Our local fire department can handle that. We have a structure fire. We want the county paged, then they can add that to that mutual aid agreement.
I'd like to go into legal next week or the week after and have a clear understanding of the automatic aid agreement versus the mutual aid agreement and decide like a direction. And there might be things we want to pull from the automatic aid agreement, put it into the mutual aid possibly. So
And that was the purpose of sending the mutual aid agreements to the cities was to allow them to do that as well.
right. I just think that we should do it as well as commission.
Can you please talk to them about the deadlines too, Chief?
So the Pleasanton is kind of under a deadline as far as state statutes. They have to decide what they're doing with their fire department. And if they decide to dissolve it, they have to approach the commissioners to absorb that area into the Linn County Rural Fire District, and it has to be done prior to July 1st of this year. That allows the fire district to take it over January 1st of 2026. If, for example, if they come in and say, hey, we're going to make a run at it and keep it, and December rolls around and they say, nope, this isn't working, we want to dissolve it, and they come in and ask you guys to dissolve it, that wouldn't take effect until January 1st of 2027 because of that July 1st.
that's because of
Date.
the budget.
It's budget.
And taxing.
ran. So, and taxing because the taxes can start January 1st. So that's why they do that July 1st as far as changing any of the districts on that.
Are you guys okay with going into legal next week on it?
That's fine.
Fun.
I feel like it needs to be discussed fairly quickly.
Do you need information from me as far as the difference between the automatic and the mutual aid?
I have them both. I think that, have you sent to the other commissioners both
Yeah.
contracts? Okay,
This is something we've been
Yeah.
working on
so
for,
I would just like to go over it like line for line, make sure that we have a clear understanding of the direction we want to go. Because sometimes when I hear people at the council, I'm thinking, oh, well, yeah, let me look into that. And then that's not what we're going to look into. I just want to be clear from.
Well, basically what I thought when we went to the mutual aid is we stopped doing all of the small calls. I mean, you know,
Right.
for the cities because they would take care of it is what was my understanding.
yeah. And one of the things that,
Gas leaks and things, but
Yeah.
fires.
and one of the things that dictated that was those responses I read for the last 3 years, where before, yeah, we're just automatically getting paged. Every time that pager goes off, it's costing the rural fire district money. And that's,
But I
And-
hear you say you're getting paged the same at Lacine though. So how and why would you get paged from Lacine and not respond? Would they say, don't come?
yeah, they can cancel us.
Like, we don't want you coming.
Yeah.
Because if we show up, so Pleasanton can say, don't show up too, right?
Right. And that would be, that's why we're going back, what Jim was saying, that's why we're going to the mutual aid, where those little calls, those gas leaks, they're not automatically paging that station
We're not
now.
getting paged
Also-
out on the small, on the gas leaks and things like
Right.
that until Pleasanton.
Correct. But my concern is that we have provided Pleasanton with a list of per hour or per vehicle pricing. And I just think that we need to provide the same pricing to Lacine or Lynn Valley as well, just because they're not responding quite as frequently, I guess. We still should be billing Lacine and Lynn Valley as well.
But we haven't billed anybody.
We have
No,
not,
we haven't billed anyone, but I'm just saying, if we're going to tell Pleasanton, hey, if you don't, and we're going to bill you this amount, I think that the same.
Did we ever tell them that we were gonna bill them?
no, those were
Okay.
just quotes they asked for to,
Pleasanton had asked for quotes.
Right.
And
But
that's
I mean,
why-
I think it needs to be clear that we're not looking to bill
now,
any of these fire departments.
But if we're giving Pleasanton the impression that we are going to bill them, it needs to be fair.
so, and
It does.
that's where that
We're
billing come
not
in
giving
with,
them the impression that we're gonna bill them, are we?
no, those quotes come around because their mayor and one of the city councilmen asked what a bill would look like. And that's why it was quote, if they said, hey, we're going to dissolve our fire department, or hey, we're going to keep it, we don't show up, we want you to bill us for this, what would it look like? So we could see, hey, budget wise, if we're not showing up, this is what it could cost us. They were just using it for reference. We have never billed anybody for anything like that. And, but that's something that as commissioners, you could put in that aid agreement saying, hey, if you do not show up, then, and we show up and do it, we can bill you for it. And that could go into the agreement with those rates in there. So,
And they would most likely respond by doing the same for their fire departments, correct?
right. So,
By billing us
By billing us.
when they have to help us out.
yeah. And the state statute mutual aid, says that you're agreeing to do this, not billing them. They're not covering liabilities. They're not covering damages or anything like that.
Can you,
Is that for all calls or that's for structure fires?
That'd be for all calls.
also, can you send me the state statute mutual aid agreement? I didn't
Yeah.
get that in this email, but it may
I'll
be
say it-
online. I just don't see
I'll
it.
say it should be on
Yeah, if
the
you
share, so.
send it to me just so I know exactly.
Okay.
I'm reading the right statute. Mayor Matthew Young from Pleasanton is here and he's in the audience raising his hand, but it's up to you if you'd like to let him speak.
I'm fine with it. If you want to come, you good with it?
It's fine.
I don't mind. Just state your name, please.
Matthew Young, Mayor of Pleasanton. Just a couple things. One of the things is we asked for what that would cost or what it's actually costing the county when they're showing up to things in Pleasanton, because we wanted to know. And since the automatic aid agreement expired in 2018, the state mutual aid agreement that exists that we would be running under right now gives leeway in there to be charged whenever another entity is coming in to help with something. And we wanted to kind of clarify to our people that it's costing the county when we're not responding.
Right.
And if we do respond and the county's coming in, then that's a good mutual aid. And we do need that. But if the county's the only one responding, then we feel that that's just not appropriate. So we wanted to know that information to be able to tell the people in Pleasanton that information. The other question that I had is Chief Hegwald had mentioned on the SOG and how that's breaking down on the call outs per station and so forth. And I was wondering if we could get a copy of that, because it would help in our discussion regarding the mutual aid or anything, should tonight go that they intend to keep the fire department, our fire department.
I don't have
I
a
think
problem.
we should be providing that to all the,
Yeah, I think
Cities.
all three places should have it just to look at it.
Angie should have that, but I'll send it to you.
You good? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions for me?
I don't
No.
know.
We'll be in touch
Thank you.
tonight. Thanks, Matthew.
So one other thing that I wanted to talk about on this, because I know I talked to Dan about this, is with the structure fires and the automatic aid versus mutual aid, that affects the ISO. The ISO is where you get your insurance rates from your insurance. Fire departments are ranked from 1 being the best to 10 is you got a lot of improvement. So right now, the cities are all sitting at a 5. Anything within 5 miles of a fire station in Linn County is a 5. So the city fire departments are setting off of Linn County's ISO score. Lynn Valley's getting ready to do a big water line project. Lacine just finished a water line project. And so that's one thing that they are interested in, is actually getting away from that, having that aid agreement, but getting their own ISO, because they may be able to lower their ISO scores in town from that 5 because of that water. So ISO, 50% of your ISO score is your truck, equipment, and personnel. 40% is your water, and then 10% is communications. So that water, with those new water systems, that will help them a lot. And so that will factor into these automatic and mutual aid agreements. Yes, they still need our help. They need it for the manpower and the trucks. So that's just
Okay.
another tidbit to the aid agreements. So
On this packet with the ISO, I'll have Danielle copy it, and is that okay if they all have a copy of what I received at Pleasanton? Okay. Are the statutes at the back of this Pleasanton packet? Did you provide that for them? The statute 193605
which one?
or 193606, was that the mutual aid?
That is the statute governing dissolving the fire department and being absorbed into the county.
All right, thank you.
I
I'll
can
just wait
send,
on
like I
that.
said, I'll send out those mutual aid ones. So. Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions for him. I think I just want to be clear with all the commissioners on the direction that
Okay.
the options
Yeah.
for the cities. before-
And like I said, right now, the option, I mean, we're just waiting for them to send something back saying, hey, we signed the mutual aid, or this is what we want changed. It's just like any contract negotiation. It's here, this, and go back until you both agree on something. So,
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Amanda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Amanda Snyder, Linn County Health Department. I sent this by email, so you should have a copy to view as well. Just a April update for the Health Department. Appointment-wise, we were at 377 for this year, 328 for last year, and 274 in 2023. Just a quick measles update. Total cases so far in the state of Kansas, we're at 48. This was of last Wednesday. The majority are still in the southwest corner of the state. There have been some press releases. There has been a case in Sedgwick County But since it is unrelated to the cases in the southwest part of the county, they're not including it in this update. So still nothing here yet, and something that we're keeping an eye on.
Okay.
April highlights, we had the KDHE mobile lab at Jayhawk Linn Elementary School. And then Danielle and Amber both completed their car seat tech class. We went to the National WIC conference. That's where I had the poster presentation, just talking about how we're using technology in our health department. A lot of great networking, insight from other departments, a lot of takeaways. It was a good conference. We had our WIC management evaluation on April 30th. They have already closed out our evaluation. And just a little quote there at the bottom, they said, "We commend you on the outstanding service that you provide to the clients of Linn County. You do an excellent job." So no significant findings within our evaluation.
Good.
Upcoming events. This week is Women's Health Week. So the health department will be over at we'll actually be in this room tomorrow. We are going to have a little smoothie social for our female employees. So we encourage them to attend. They can come anytime between 2 and 3 o'clock tomorrow. We are also hosting a Deliciously Diabetic 4-part class. This will take place June 17th, June 24th, July 1st, and July 8th. Each class is a little different. These are free to the public, free to employees. This was what I was inquiring last month to see if it would be allowed or permitted for employees to attend these if they were interested without having to clock out or take time off work to attend.
Okay.
So my thought process behind it is we're self-insured, correct? The county's paying their own claims.
Right.
If we had somebody who say was pre-diabetic and they wanted to take corrective steps to change that without
Medication.
this would be a good option for them. Therefore reducing your claims and the amount that we're spending. This is kind of more of a prevention
This is
strategy.
my thought process when I look at everything you've already presented. All I can think of is why we do not have some sort of social media management. I do not see how all these things that you're showing us, that the public or our employees are even notified, whether it's through a mass email or our Facebook. I just, my concern is, okay, fine, I will let we'll approve everyone to go to these. And someone's going to say, I didn't know that this was
Someone's
happening.
always going to say, I don't know, this is out there.
So how can we get the message to our employees?
Not just our employees or.
Or
county
just-
taxpayers.
So
The
this
public,
this will
but-
be going out in our next Every Door mailer, which is ready to be picked up. So this will be going to every mailbox within
Residents.
Linn County, which would catch a lot of our employees, not all of them. But no, I would love for there to be a way to notify all of our employees of this. It's on our website, under our page and upcoming events. But not
Which,
every.
to me, it's like anybody that visits the website, they're not going to go. I'm sorry, they're probably not going to go to your page.
Right.
They look at the front of the page and they don't stay because there's nothing fun to look at. So this is fun. This looks like interesting. I would want to go to this. I would like our employees to be able to go to this. I just would like there to be a way to communicate. So you have your own Facebook page. So you're posting it on there, I'm assuming. And that means our clerk page, which is the only one I guess I personally follow. I've never seen it. I'm assuming you haven't seen this yet.
I don't know that we've
maybe.
put this one out yet.
Okay.
I don't, as far as Facebook, I don't.
But even if you did, I just don't feel like we're hitting the masses on it. I don't feel like we're communicating well with the public on it. Great that you're doing this. I love it. I look at this. It's eye-catching. It's great.
Yeah.
Great marketing.
No, that's a struggle is getting the word out to people. So, yeah. Any suggestions were?
Well, I have a lot of suggestions on the communication part. I think that every employee personally should have an email. I think every employee that we hire should have an email. And I think that we should be sending out, like, 'cause I just sent you a message the other day. I'm like, where do we see the W-2s? Like, where do we see our pay stubs?
Through our mail, email.
There is an option through our Tyler Technology payroll services for employee self-service, which my office is currently in the process of setting up a training to establish that. You would need a.
So you get it?
I get a pay stub in my email.
Currently, everyone gets their pay stubs emailed to them.
And then
Maybe you're not getting paid.
if we do not,
You're working for free.
do we contact you then?
That's correct. You
Okay.
contact the clerk's office and we could provide you with a copy of your pay stub, previous pay stubs, W-2s, whatever you need.
So there is a system set up for all of our employees then to get that.
That is correct.
But it may be going to their personal email, not their county email.
Okay. All right. So that leads me to, well, I'm sure you have more, but
I do. That's okay.
social media management, you know, when Chastity had her, you can talk about this later on possibly, but the award that we sent out, the girl that won from Lacine from Prairie View, she was social media management. And I had the idea, I'm like, well, it's $90 a month. She won. Let her have an opportunity to do social media management for the county. So I would like to look into that as well. But as far as this goes, I think that we have to be communicating with our other Facebook pages. And also I asked Chastity a long time ago to kind of like, okay, what are we using? What are we using? How does every department have their own? Like they kind of do. It gets confusing. Health department, fire department, the clerk's office, sheriff's department, which I'm not saying, oh, the marina, the lake. We've got to focus, I feel like, and hone in on like, hey, everything needs to be going one place so everybody is seeing it. And I just feel like we're not seeing it consistently.
As far as that's concerned, I would prefer that we keep our own page. I feel like we put stuff out pretty consistently and have a pretty, I feel like, good following. And with that, somebody who's maybe wanting to follow a Facebook page for emergency updates or weather-related updates may not be interested in seeing information on breastfeeding or diabetic classes.
Sure. I know I'm going to get a
Yeah.
million emails after this.
I mean, I see your point.
Public.
That, yeah, it's
So-
nice.
I know the sheriff's department's going to want to keep theirs. I know Randy's probably going to keep theirs.
It could be an option that every time one of our individual departments posts something, they could tell me, send me an email that says, please share. And then I can go find their post and share it on the county Facebook page, which is posted on the front page of our website. And Chastity and I share access to the county-wide email, or sorry, the Facebook.
Okay.
So your question was,
I
are
just
we going to
wanna know-
allow the employees to come to this?
Yes, because, okay, if I were to send this out in an email right now, just to the county list that I have, people are going to look at it and they're going to say, well, I don't really want to take off to go attend this, or my boss isn't going to let me go over to attend this without clocking out. And they're just going to write it off. Now, tomorrow, walking over here to get a smoothie is 5 minutes. I would think most department heads would allow their employees to go do that. But to clock out and come over, to the health department for an hour, maybe not as likely, unless you were to say, we are allowing employees an hour to go.
I think it's going to be hard for us to say we are allowing all employees when the sheriff's department is like, my dispatcher cannot leave.
Right.
So
I
Where
understand.
do we
It
stop
gets
it
very-
is what I'm saying is when we do it on this one, how do we do the next one? You know, if the next program, or whatever we do we just let off just because this is for diabetics? I mean, what do we do on the next one? That's where I'm at with it.
You have an opinion, Jonathan? I mean, obviously, I want to say yes.
I think we can certainly encourage participation, but I do think that we have to leave that up to the department heads.
Yeah.
Especially insofar as the elected officials manage their own departments. I don't think the commissioners have the authority to demand that they allow them to go. So we could certainly make it known
That we support it.
that we support it and that we would encourage it.
Okay, well, I support it and think that it would be good for our employees to be able to attend if they wish.
Okay.
But we'll leave that up to the department heads.
If it's up to the department heads, are you in agreement that we would allow them to leave paid?
Yes, I am. Is that what you want,
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Jim?
I'm not for letting them go with being paid because I tell you what, where do we stop this? Once we start it, where do we stop it? That's where I'm at.
I know the times are,
They're hard, but if,
Yeah.
do you want to pay us overtime to work an evening or a weekend, or would you rather us do it during the day? Got to kind of pick your battle there.
It'd give the taxpayers an opportunity if it was in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you'd give a lot more people in the county an opportunity to go if they chose to.
Yeah, if you're fine with paying overtime for that, then
I mean, I hear you saying overtime, but would there be a way like you could just do like instead of like an 8 to 5, like a 10 to 7, or
if you guys are okay with that,
like, you know what I mean? Just like,
a flex.
hey,
Change
I'm
the
going to
work
come in
schedule
late
for the day
tomorrow
if somebody-
because
Or make it 6
Yeah.
o'clock and change your work, whoever's
If
work
you
schedule.
guys are okay with that,
I'm good with that if you guys choose to do.
Like
that,
a
to put
flex?
it in the evening to where more people can come if they choose to.
okay.
I would personally be in favor of that more than.
I would
Because
myself.
I mean, I am looking at the times and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, 9, 10, or
Right in the middle
2
of the day.
and 3, and who all. I would love to see the numbers on it too.
Okay.
Like how many people are showing
I
up.
won't be able to change this one because it's already been printed in that every door mailer. But yeah, the next thing we do, why don't we try an evening, and I can report back if attendance was better on that.
Fine.
And maybe like at 6 o'clock or something right after work for everybody. And if there was people that was interested to come, they would stop by on the way on.
Okay.
I think that would be great. Also, do you need a motion regarding the pay if the department heads do allow them? Or is that up to the,
Okay.
thanks.
Moving on. Our Keep Me Safe. This is something that will take place in Mound City at the library, the health department, and then the Lacing Library. We'll have different vendors at this. This is really just promoting safety in every aspect that we can. So sun safety, water safety, fishing safety, ATV safety, bug bite prevention, safe sleep, car seat installs. We'll have lots of good stuff there. So this will also be in our Every Door mailer that's going out. International Yoga Day is June 20th. We'll have a program that day for ages 2 to 12 at the health department. We're doing our rock snake again this year. So we will distribute painted rocks within all of the cities within Linn County. And then we encourage youth to get out and hunt those rocks, return them to the health department, and then they're entered in a drawing for some fun physical activity equipment. And then we line the snake up along the side of the building. And then again, our mammograms have been rescheduled to July 10th. So if you have not made an appointment yet, we encourage you to do so. One thing that I wanted to clarify, or I guess confirm with the clerk's office. So July 10th, that is in our current health insurance year. However, our trifolds are due, I think, July 1st. So if they were to come get their mammogram, it will not count on their points for this year, but they can count it on their points for next year. Okay. Because I think in the past, we didn't turn in pamphlets till like July 8th, 9th, 10th. Okay, because I had somebody questioning and they're like, well, I need a mammogram, but I don't want to get my mammogram because I can't count it on my points until next year, but I want to count it for this year. Which I know it's tricky because the year doesn't start over till August 1st. But I know you guys have to have time to process that to get everything done. So next year. Okay. That's all I have.
On the trifolds, that's your department though, right? On all the HR.
Yep. You can earn points if you get a mammogram.
Have you seen it?
I have. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Amanda.
Then.
Yep. All right.
Thanks. Have
Thanks,
a great
guys.
week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good morning. Before I get started, I have Carrie Spoon here with Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Commission, who is going to share some information regarding grant information.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am here to answer questions, provide some information on turning back the CDBG grant number 23PS028. It was for the Linn County Youth Job Training Grant, part of the STARS program run out of Pleasanton. No grant funds have been drawn down for this. It was just, if it had been successful and moved through purchasing and everything else, there would have been simulators purchased for that program for the students to use. It's being turned back because we did not get enough of the income surveys back from participating students' families to determine if 51% of them were low to moderate income, which is a key regulation for CDBG funds. And so for that reason, the grant needs to be turned back. And I do have a letter that Mr. Johnson would need to sign that we would then provide to the state, officially turning the grant back.
Now, how much was this grant for?
100 from CDBG and 25 from the county. 125 total, 25 from the county, 25,000 from the county, and 100,000 from CDBG.
Okay.
When you say $25,000 from the county, what do you mean by that?
Match.
That would have paid for our administration.
It's the match. The grants have a certain match from the municipality. So that was the percentage of our match.
And that would have came out of the funds that we had already budgeted for the STARS program.
And that was where that 25 was coming from, this money. And when was the deadline?
It's passed.
It's passed. Huh?
Well, we're turning it back. It needs to be turned back because with discussions with the state, we could not at this point say that the students that are currently enrolled in that program would be able to use those simulators.
Right.
But the funds would have needed to have been spent by the end of June or the end of July.
Okay. So you need a motion.
I'll make,
I have lots of questions. I feel like we need to bring him in here. He absolutely, he easily could have done the surveys, correct?
Well, what I was told
There-
was it had to get the people, the parents and the students there involved in order to fill the paperwork out. Is that right?
that is correct.
I'm
And-
not in favor of making a motion to do that. Just
To cancel the grant,
Well, we got to cancel the grant.
Cancel the grant. It's not a choice to cancel the grant. The grant has to be canceled.
There is
I
not a
just
way
don't
for the
want to
grant
forget
move
about it. I
forward.
think we need to. I think that we need to bring it to his attention that because of an error, that now the county is out $125,000 to help the STARS program, essentially, correct?
and he is aware because he's the one who wasn't able to get the verifications, correct?
Yeah, our office has been in regular communication with him on the status of this since last fall.
When I first came in, remember the check that we were supposed to cut to the STARS program?
Mhm.
We never approved it. Is that still?
Still the case. They haven't requested it again or anything that way. At the last STARS board meeting, we talked about that. They're still trying to get their MOU finished up with Fort Scott and are in kind of limbo from that perspective. So
Trying to
they are not,
With Pittsburgh now, right?
no,
They're going to stay with Fort Scott?
they have to stay with Fort Scott
They have
at
to.
this time.
Okay.
Fort Scott would have to release them, and Fort Scott is not willing to release them. They still want their state aid money coming in from that. They will not be requesting those funds from us until they have that MOU and a clear direction going forward.
So how long do we hang on to that money when we go into a new budget year? I mean, is it
It'll be through the end of the year.
through the end of this year?
Yeah. And like, so enrollment is taking place right now, you know, so it's important that they do
Can they
that. And
enroll anybody
looking,
without their MOU?
we have in the past, because we haven't ever had an MOU with Fort Scott.
How are we funding where is that coming out of, the budget?
Contingency.
Well, we actually voted to put that, an extra mill on, or
Yeah, we
right
put
at a
it.
mill.
Before I came in, there was a mill on it.
No, we put a mill on.
No, we didn't add it. It's coming out of the contingency part of the budget. That's how we stayed budget neutral.
Okay.
I would like clarification on all of that
Okay.
at some point.
Can you verify that for us, where it comes from? Okay. So we need to make a motion to sign yours.
Yes, please.
I make a motion that we sign her grant to decline the money for the STARS program.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can you please tell us the ramifications regarding future potential grants in light of having to turn this money back? Does this limit the county's ability to receive this grant funding in the future?
There would be some caveats if the county were to apply for this specific program, again, on behalf of the STARS program. But as far as anything else within the CDBG, different funding programs, no, there's no repercussions for this.
Thank you, Carrie.
Right, thank you.
I need a copy of this, so if you don't mind.
When's the next STARS meeting for you?
We just had one, so 3 months.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, I would like to know from the clerk next week are we required to release that check to them? Are we required to, moving forward, if it is a mill, I want to know all the information with the mill. If we voted prior to me coming in to give that tax money through the mill to the STARS program, are we required? When can we end that? How do we end it?
I'll look into it and have an answer for you.
All right, thank you.
It wasn't quite a mill. I mean, wasn't it just?
No, we say, no, it was, we capped it at the same as it was from the mill the previous year. It wasn't to exceed the 325,000.
Right, something like that.
The first year we did a mill on the tax roll for it. The second year we said we weren't going to give them any more money than what we'd already designated for them to have. And it would have been voted on during budget season as we approved those budgets.
I'm just reading an email from Jessica Hightower. It says total committed. This was in 2024, $268,104.06. So I'm just like, what does that mean? Total committed. I'd like you to have this email as well. Thank you,
Okay.
Chastity.
Yep, I got a few more things.
Is it true, Jason, like that Fort Scott was not giving the STARS program
Yes,
the amount of money that they should have been receiving from?
that there's been very little support from Fort Scott.
Okay.
That is correct.
That's what I've been told, that, that if they would have been receiving what Fort Scott would have supported them at, maybe they wouldn't have needed as much from us.
Right. And I want to, so Fort Scott is supposed to be paying for supplies and things that way. They're still responsible, the STARS board and Linn County STARS Foundation, the building and everything that way, it's still funded through there. So, and like going back to your question about why does it say Labette Bank? It's a lease purchase agreement through Labette Bank.
The school district can't have a loan at the bank anyway, probably.
They do,
Yeah, but
but a lease purchase
lease purchase, that's
Right.
the reason why the titles or the deed's still in the, right.
in the bank.
Any other time it would go to the buyer.
Correct.
Since it's a school board.
It's a municipality, it's a lease purchase agreement instead of a loan, right?
Makes sense.
And Pleasanton is the one on the hook for the loan and everything that way. So,
Okay.
Is Don Epps coming to all this?
Yes.
Okay.
he is very much involved, and he is the one that is negotiating the MOU with, he's the lead on that
With Fort Scott.
with Fort Scott.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I am requesting for approval, I guess I have to have your approval for an RFP termination for the website development. There were some questions that were brought forward. One of the biggest things is we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing apples to oranges with the 3 proposals that came in. And so I'm asking to terminate that and wanting to issue another one to go out May 21st to run for 2 weeks. I met with Chris Martin last week in regards to the initial RFP that went out. Also visiting with him in regards to setting up a new RFP to make sure that we are going to be able to compare apples to apples versus apples to oranges. We worked diligently for about an hour last week and going to meet again, I believe later this week, to be able to have that ready to go for that May 21st timeframe. So I'm just asking for permission that I could do that.
We're essentially recalling and closing the original RFP. Yeah, we're essentially recalling and closing it, and we're going to open a new
So
one.
we need 2 motions or 2 separate ones or?
Sure, for the sake of being clean and clear, that would be great. So we need a motion to recall and close the original RFP and to open.
I'll make a
new.
motion that we recall and close the original website RFP.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 I'll make a motion that we go out for RFP for website development on May 21st
To run for 2 weeks.
to run for 2 weeks.
I'll second that as well.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I'd make one comment. You're looking at all of that before it goes out for the RFP, so we don't have this issue again.
Yes, ma'am. I'll look at the new one.
All right, thank you.
The next thing I have
Oh, wait,
is,
hold on.
sorry.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Okay, sorry. Next thing I have is in regards to the Historical Society. When I came on board here back in November, I think it was my second week here, I was thrown to the wolves regarding the Historic Society sign that's over there currently in the courthouse lawn and the new one that came about. I just want to move forward a little bit in regards to where we're at with that. I visited with Caitlin Barthol at the K-State Research and Extension Center. They're in the Meridian District there, Pagola, which is also over our Linn County area. There was 3 phases to that flower bed garden that was going to go in this northeast corner of the sidewalks of the courthouse. They're currently in phase 3. However, we're kind of on a hold right now because we don't have enough volunteers to develop that master garden or that garden. We don't have enough master gardeners to develop that in a timely manner. And until they have that commitment, they won't move on with that phase 3. However, with that being said, the sign has to be set prior to them starting that project. Because of the native grass, they don't want people in there after the native grasses and the plants are put in there and potentially destroying them. I did ask for clarification also in regards to that master garden, and there is no fee to us. I was under the impression that we as the county purchased the flowers, the native grass, everything that was going in that, and that is incorrect. They have budgeted for this project to take place. They're only on hold because of lack of volunteers to put that flower garden in. So the sign that was in an array of whatever. It's big, it's bright, and it says the exact same thing that's currently on that sign. I think one reason why we were, and I say we as a broad individual group here, that we were against it is because it didn't look the same. It will be off the road, or I should say off of the sidewalk, a little bit more to the south than the current sign. But the sign that was brought forward to us was not a completed sign. So the plan amongst the Historical Society group that you have asked me to develop, and we've been meeting regularly, matter of fact, we meet again tomorrow, is that they will frame that sign that was purchased without approval in a wooden frame and have metal stakes put on it, the back of it, for it to be put in the ground, because it will have to be concreted into the ground. So I guess I'm asking how you would like for me to move forward with that. If you would like us to move forward with putting that sign once it's completed with a wooden frame around it to somewhat tie in the wood that is currently at that sign, or what you'd like for me to do.
I'm not in favor of moving forward with the sign. I feel like we were headed in the right direction with marketing and a branding campaign. We're getting ready to get a new website. I wanted to look into logos. I wanted to look into color schemes,
Okay.
a font package, all of that. So what I was always hearing from you is that we were going to start with the website, starting with the website. Okay, we're starting with the website, but honestly, the marketing and the branding for the county needs to be simultaneously happening.
Okay. The branding is started, what I mean by started is I have met with two individuals, two counties that just recently got theirs approved. Hutchinson County is the one I just finished visiting with on Friday. They just approved theirs in March. It is a lengthy process, so that is not going to happen even probably in the next 6 months. So I just do want you guys to know that it is a lengthy process because there has got to be a lot of involvement from the county. This is not a decision I get to make on my own or even just with the three of you. So I do want to, that was my next thing to bring up, was talk about that I just wanted you to know that process has been started, and it will be a lengthy process, but it's coming.
So since the sign has been there since the 70s, I'm not in favor of putting a new sign in right now for another 50 years. Because we're going to put it in there with cement, and that's going to be stuck. And that gives us no reason to move forward with the direction I felt like we were going.
Okay. Anything else?
How do you feel?
I mean, we already paid for the sign.
We didn't pay for the sign.
We didn't.
We didn't.
We did not. A private individual and
Okay.
Anything with
We
that
didn't.
sign.
There we go.
County, yeah, Pleasanton's Historical Society paid for it. I believe that's correct.
Okay.
We have a lot of signs throughout the county that need to be replaced. Every sign that's up right now is from the 1970s. It's not a joke. It's serious.
What was wrong with the 70s?
Someone
I sure don't remember.
Seriously?
whittled out letters and painted that yellow on rotten.
It's currently red right now, and you can't read it.
Well, you can just look right out this back window and you can see for yourself.
Chisel and hammer, she should.
It was chiseled out. It's
It's not true, but okay.
It's called handcrafted. You have to pay double for that today.
I'm true. Right. Okay. Well, I just feel like those signs need to be replaced. But even with that outside of historical signs, let's just even get away from historical signs. You have a website coming into play. We're going out to RFP again. You have to have a font package. You have to have your colors. You have to have, like, your Pantone colors have to be picked out. And if you're going to change your logo, you need to do that with a professional company.
I do believe that was a conversation, if I remember correctly, again, right after I got started here in regards to saying anything.
First week.
I know. Boom. Anyway, I remember the discussion being talked about that if we were going to put anything on county property, we really wanted it to have a county logo somewhere on it. So I know that was a discussion that we had had at some point. So if you were wanting to wait until the branding aspect is complete, I'm more than happy to do that, and we'll do that. I think what the patrons need to understand as well is that we are not saying we can't use that sign. That sign can be altered. And what I mean by that is we can eventually add whatever logo or brand that we choose in the bottom corner or somewhere on it to make it where it is an official Linn County approved sign. But I think at this point, maybe we should wait. I guess that's what I'm gathering from
Are
you
you
guys.
saying that your historical society voted to use that sign?
I shouldn't say we voted, quote unvoted, but there were 5 people here that said they would like to see it in a wooden frame and metal stakes and it placed in the ground before the flower garden was put in. And when I spoke to Caitlin last week, she said that sign would need to be placed in the ground prior to that flower garden taking place.
When does she expect phase 3 to happen?
Could happen honestly anytime. They have some other individuals that are finishing their criteria to become a master gardener in this area, and they could be, really anytime.
Once they do the master garden, how long can it be before they can put a sign on the backside of it? I know you said it's because of the prairie grasses. Sure, at a certain time that somebody can get.
And I don't know that it's in stone that sign has to go within the flower garden. I think the conversation about that is it would be weeded on a regular basis and that sort of thing. Is our current mowing guys going to weed eat around that metal sign if it's on the outside of the flower garden? Maybe they will. I don't know. I would imagine they will because it's part of the grass that they're mowing and weed eating. So
Then I guess we could talk to them about that.
I'm just not in favor of it because we've already presented what Lark Label could have done an exact sign replicating what we have over there right now with Gordon Parks for $3,000. And I guarantee you're going to come back in and you're going to give us a quote for the concrete and the frame and the posts, and it's going to be pretty close. When that Lark Label was $3,000, that included them coming in here and installing it, printing it, and a lifetime warranty. A lifetime warranty. And since our signs stay up for 50 years, I think that we need a lifetime warranty. Good job. Good job, Kevin.
how about we table this?
Sure.
We'll table this until we know more from the master gardeners,
Okay.
their time frame and that sort of thing. Okay. The only thing I have left is to go into executive session in regards to job description. I actually have 2. I have an executive session for legal in regards to trade secrets. That will take about, maybe 10 minutes. And then executive session with non-elected personnel in regards to job description.
How long's it?
Performance.
Both, actually, because it's job description regarding the marina, job performance regarding economic development. And I think I initially asked for 20 minutes for that.
20 minutes for that. So,
Do you want to do public comment before we go?
yeah, we'll do the public comment before we go in for that.
You good then?
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll open it up for public comment.
Got the. Sorry.
Okay.
I have to replace it. No, it's very steady here. Rogie McPherson from Centerville. And, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning. And you all seem like a lively bunch this morning, so this should go well. It's not always that way when you walk into the room and you feel this tenseness. Anyway,
Sorry.
And I'm really not here to complain. I'm actually would want to follow up on a couple of things. Not that it means anything, but I am a master gardener. But and since 2010, I think it was, I used to do a lot more with it. I have not much recently because, well, time-wise, health-wise, et cetera. But I would be happy to work with this one, especially now that there's projects in this end of the with the two counties. So much of the activities were in Miami County that that's improved. So I have tried to get a little bit more involved by writing some newspaper articles and things like that. But anyhow, that's not why I'm here. It just was a follow-up to your discussion this morning. Also as a follow-up to your discussion with the STARS program. And I didn't get permission to say anything about this, so I'm not going to mention names. But I do know the young man, I don't know him well, but that his mother said he had 3 job offers on the day that the career people came in for the welding program. And he had to decide between those 3 and did make a decision. And so I think that speaks, I won't say well, because I don't know all of the ins and outs with the STARS program. I know it's been a little controversial. But I think you also have to look at the outcome of any project that you're looking at. What difference does it make? And I think knowing a little bit about this individual, I think it'll make a big difference. And so I just want to share that as a positive with you. And I've said before that I like to come to the commission meeting and say something positive before I get into some other issues. And so the other one that I had was, I don't think I ever thanked you for the repairing the work in front of the 1350 road, putting in, actually, they put in 3 culverts. And I know I talked to Sean about this and thanked him, but I don't think I ever did you. Now, the big concern is going to be when we have a very big rain, what is it going to hold? But it certainly looks very substantial now, and it's nice in that it's coming through, and then there's a dip, and then you go on, but it's all level. So I think will last 50 years.
Oh, we hope so.
You might not. Oh, I turned that off, didn't I? Yeah, it's a good thing. The real reason that I was here or in here today was talking to someone, and by the way, you may or may not know that I'm the silver-haired legislator for Linn County, which is not a big deal. Don't get too excited about it. But I do have some responsibilities with that. And with that, I feel like I need to come and ask some questions about the Centerville nutrition site. Since I just found out about it over the weekend, I didn't obviously have an opportunity to talk to any personnel there and did not have time this morning to do that. So I can run some questions by them as well. But one of the things that this individual said is that it is closed, which I didn't know that. And I think it closed because of personnel or lack of someone to staff it. He had also just suggested that there might be somebody interested in doing that. I don't know the numbers anymore. I used to go there on a fairly regular basis. I haven't more recently. I think that the traction for any of these sites is if they can bring in something else on certain days and make it interesting or fun, whatever term you want to use, that brings a few more people in. But I don't know what their numbers have been. So I don't know what you're also thinking about.
So the site manager had an illness or something that
That's
caused
right.
them to have to resign.
Yes.
And so things have been going on in kind of a makeshift way until we do find another site manager.
And this individual mentioned getting frozen meals for the weekend or something like that. Again, so I'm coming here not very prepared because I have not called Deb or others at the area aging to find out what's going on. So it may be a staffing issue. I'm not here to complain about it. I'm here to ask questions about it.
Okay.
I know at some point in time you have to, am I at my 5 minutes? Sometime you have to make a decision whether all of these small ones are going to stay open. So again, I'm not getting into that because I don't know. I don't know how many numbers are there, what it costs us, this sort of thing. I'm just asking questions. I think for the few that do use it, it's a very important resource for them. I know this individual is now going to Blue Mound, which doesn't sound like, it's not a big deal. It would not be a big deal for me, but I have a reasonably decent car. This individual doesn't. So, you're looking at those kinds of things. And if I exceeded it, that's okay. And I'm done anyway, so.
Well, I had asked for all of the information regarding Pleasant and Bunker Hill, all of the sites, who was running them, how much are we paying them, how much funding are we getting? I don't really know where that went, but we'll look into it again.
We don't pay them, we own the sites,
And pay the utilities. We pay the utilities and the
and then
side.
have a contribution that we make toward the area on aging, which was the amount that was given to you.
So the Blue Mound or Centerville, are they getting vouchers like Parker is?
They can, but
How do they
no.
get them?
Okay, so my understanding right now is that they are still dropping meals off to the site. They're just not having a congregate meal because they don't have anybody to set up and run that.
They drop it off to the site and somebody's delivering a home delivery instead of having it at the site.
And
is what I-
they're driving through there anyway because they do have people on the route
At Blue Mound and Mound City.
Right.
that are getting home delivery through there. Okay. As far as closing the site, we have had no discussions as far as the area on aging board about closing the site. That's not one of the ones that was brought up from that standpoint. It would be very hard for us to go to a voucher system in Centerville with no place for them to do it in Centerville. We do try to have a local resource if we do go to a voucher system. The reason we go to the voucher systems is if we are spending more money than, if we're spending $30, $50 a meal to provide a meal, at some point, we have to make those decisions to close down
So
sites.
the area on aging, they're the ones that are deciding if the sites are closing.
Correct. They're the ones that are,
Even though we own the building, they're deciding if the.
but they're running the meal service and have the employee there doing the meal service.
Well, when they closed Parker, she reached out to me because it's in my district and asked me what my feelings was on it, which Jason's on the board, but I didn't know. If we didn't have the people coming and somebody
Right,
to work the place, I was fine with it. And then they talked about getting the vouchers at Parker, but I don't think we've done that yet, right?
No, still waiting on Sue
Yep.
from that standpoint. We have everything done.
But they do have them at Price Chopper.
Correct. And like anybody can get vouchers that is a part of the program.
Yeah, anybody that wants it in the county, I think, can go and get your.
How do
bill
you
at
get the voucher? How do?
Yeah.
Contact area on aging.
Area on aging.
Well, obviously, I have some work to do on this too, because I want to make sure that I give out appropriate information for all of Linn County residents, and can probably do a story in it for the news as well as the journal. Because I think it is a resource that is available. And yes, I would agree, if it's costing $30 a meal, there's some problem with that. I think now, unless they raised it, it was $3.50, I believe. Even if it went up to $4, that would be a pretty reasonable lunch. It may not always be the best, but I've had some fairly good meals there. So I guess my concern with closing it, and you have not suggested that that's even on the table, but because Parker is reasonably close, I would hate to see one that's not that far away close too. Although, like I say, Blue Mound, I think, is where they've been going.
And I mean, attendance is what drives
Yes.
our profitability. When I say profitability, I mean,
Yes.
The area on aging gets grant money, funding, state funding, federal funding that comes in. And when we're saying that we're paying $2.50 on the county side for these meals, they're paying the vast majority of the rest of that,
And yes, Parker wasn't the only one that you guys have shut down to.
No.
The six county area or whatever
Correct.
it is. There's a lot of them been shut.
Correct.
That's-
I realize those are.
Wellsville, Lane went to vouchers in both of those areas. Out in Osage County, we've had sites that way,
I think
Williamsburg.
There's less participation in it now than
Well,
used to be.
And like I'd had an email from somebody saying that we needed to provide more entertainment and things that way at those congregate sites. And I want to be clear on this is, that's not the area on agency's role in that. Their goal and focus is on providing meals to seniors, And like I said, there's only so many dollars to go around and things that way. And we got to make sure that we're using those to impact as many people as possible, whether they're homebound or going to the congregate sites. We want to impact as many people as possible.
And I know those are your decisions, so I'm just giving you some information that you can deal with in the future. I'm not asking you to figure this out this morning. The reason that I would say on the entertainment, and that's, whoever's running it
Has to do that,
has to do it, and it's going to be a little more proactive. Some are going to be more proactive than others.
correct?
And I know about it because I know about some of the groups that used to come in. I used to go read to them. That was some of the entertainment, every maybe month or a couple of months or something like that. And that's why I'm a little more familiar with it than otherwise. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. My only, I guess, last question is I'm sorry, this is maybe part of the aging process when your mouth gets real dry. But anyhow, would it be fair to me, for me or this individual, to go to the individual who apparently has expressed some interest and say, apply for that?
I
Or
think
is
they
that
need to
gonna
be,
make-
I think they need to be talking to
Okay.
the area on aging.
I think part of it may have been they didn't know who to go to.
Okay.
And so if you're,
Rutgers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leslie Rockers.
yes, or Deb works with the hearing.
Right,
So
right.
it's two individuals, or who I generally work with. Okay, well, that's probably it. We'll just kind of keep the wheels in motion on that and decide how it turns out.
Yeah, yeah, because like I said, we haven't had any discussions as far as closing it down. It's just a matter of trying to find somebody that'll be willing to manage the site
And I suppose the
and
last,
seeing how the numbers respond to that.
yes, and, I'll say something to this individual. I'm not going to promote it one way or another, but I want her, in fairness, to know that there is a position out there if she's interested.
Okay.
Excuse me. I think I guess this is a question, Jason, for you, because I think that you said at maybe 3 meetings ago that federal grants were going to be cut on this program. So
So
how's that going to
there's-
impact us?
There's concern.
Okay,
So right now, the Older Americans Act has nobody running it.
yes,
Those people have all taken their buyouts and things that way. So there's unrest, I guess, is how I would say, and it could have drastic changes to the area on agency.
well, and I think.
And that's, I was just trying to make sure that everybody was kind of aware
Right, right.
that those changes could be coming. We don't have, it's unrest at this point. We don't have clarification on what's funding we're losing or anything along those lines.
Right. And I realize that may impact the decisions you have to make, not only this, but across the board. It could be a lot of things.
Correct.
And so what I have read about the Older Americans Act is that they're also going to combine it with another department. And so there's a lot of unknowns right
Right.
now.
And
that's-
that was what I was trying to convey, was that there's unknowns out there that we don't know how it's all going to go and things that way. That was all I was trying to say with that is, more changes could be coming because of this. We don't know yet.
I was caught. Mr. Chair, but I think I'm okay now. Thank you so much. Here, I'll take this.
I got it.
Okay.
Just because I was not aware that you could apply for the voucher, Jason, I did go to our website. So for the public, if you would like to go to our website, under nutrition, you can click on the link to East Central Kansas Area on Aging, go to the nutrition program and fill out information under voucher. So, perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Very pleased to hear that some of you were allowed, like, police to go do that then if it was daytime, it got changed. But I think the right way. Happy Mother's Day to all your mothers.
Thank you.
See you next.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Have a good day.
Anyone else? Close public comment. Make a motion, we go into executive session with Chastity, the attorney, and the three commissioners. We need Danielle.
For the trade
For
secrets,
job descriptions.
the trade secrets.
I guess we need her too, so 10 minutes for trade secrets.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll return at 10:40. There was no action. I'll make a motion, we take a 5-minute recess.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We'll return at 10:47.
I'm taking over your job.
No, thank you. I
I'm
appreciate it.
kidding. Yeah. I was like, kids?
Back in session, I make a motion, we go into executive session for 20 minutes for job performance and description with Chastity, Danielle, pardon me?
For non-elected personnel.
Right. And the attorney and the 3 commissioners for 20 minutes.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Return 13, let's see, 11:07. Make a motion, we extend executive session for 15 minutes.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Turn to 11:22. There's no action. Jesse here?
He's not gonna make it.
Okay.
It's on.
Yeah.
Mine's on. Okay, we'll go to Dave Peppercorn.
Good morning.
So, here to kind of explain the 1095 project, I've been working with Jack previously, now working with Jesse, but, kind of overwhelming him with KDOT forms and paperwork and whatnot. So to kind of give a summary of the project, Linn County received a $370,000 grant, for, it's a highways rural roads grant to install striping, rumble strip, general safety upgrades to 1095 from 152 south to
1650.
16. So, two things here to answer these questions. We've gone through the process and now have approved plans and whatnot. So the next step is for the county to sign an agreement with KDOT for the funds. So I don't know if staff had previously, KDOT brought to my attention that this agreement hadn't been formalized. So I don't know if it had come to your attention or been put on the agenda at any point. But anyway, I did bring some paper copies, but more just wanted to make you aware of the project, but to say that the last part of this to formalize the agreement with KDOT to receive the funds. The county will be obligated to a portion of the project as well. So that's also going to answer any questions about the project in itself, the estimates. If you don't mind approaching, I do have some hard copies.
Okay, come on.
This is the agreement with KDOT, and then these are just project estimates. There are two items there that are non-participating. That's the items that the county will be on. And then those are asphalt improvements to the road before it's striped, safety improvements are made. Only that's outside the scope of the grant in and of itself. However, time of plan development, staff and ourselves felt it was like an overlay on the road before it's striped. And not as though that needs to be signed today, more just to put it, make the commission aware that that is a process.
Is there a deadline?
What is the deadline?
June 5th,
So approaching.
before it gets pushed back in what's called KDOT's letting system.
The agreement needs to be signed by June 5th or returned to them or?
I would say the term.
How much time do you need to look over it? You good with bringing it back next week?
I can,
If I can just have a week, I can have it for you guys next week.
When we get that approved, do you need
Okay.
us to call you or reach back out to you?
so if you'll give that to Jesse,
Okay.
Jesse's coordinating with KDOT.
Okay.
So we're just, he's been drinking through a fire hose recently, and I just want to offer, to kind of explain the process, the project, the history of the project, the hopes and intents with it.
So what are we talking about on the surfacing items that are non-participating? Is that milling down the road first?
Yes, it's
On
preparing the
the first
road
one?
and then a 1-inch overlay.
On the second one? Okay.
The patching item, and that's the largest cost, anticipated cost. However, the road is actually in very good shape right now. What we did was we assumed 5% of the road would need to be repaired. I don't think it's going to be quite that high. Also, I was previously led to believe that the county does patching in-house. So if if they wanted to do some of that in advance of the project, there is the opportunity for cost savings for work that can be done in-house.
Okay.
I'd like to hear Jesse's opinion on this too by next week and then go over it with the attorney.
Good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on the surfacing items, if you go across on 041003, across the non-participating, you have that total of
You
$464,756.60.
can have this back. It's an extra.
Okay, I'm following you now.
Okay, so see that $400,000 number? Okay, and that $600,000 number?
Yes,
And so the combination of those two numbers is what KDOT is not paying for.
correct. And anything that is excluded wholly, and then they will only participate up to $370,000. So if that plus if the safety improvements exceed that, which we do not anticipate they will, but the KDOT's contribution will only be up to $370,000
It's capped.
capped.
Thank you.
And the county will also be responsible for construction inspection. As I was reading through the contract, that's one thing I did want to bring to the county's attention.
Construction inspection.
Yes, and let me,
Okay.
She has the contract.
Item 14 on page 9 of 14.
correct.
Okay, and so that's something we could contract out
Correct, yes.
to make sure that we're meeting our, because that's what it's for, is our,
And it's correct. And that'll be the next step in the process for Jesse and the LPA coordinator, KDOT's LPA coordinator, is to then reach out for the construction engineering agreement.
okay.
This is to verify we're getting what we're paying for.
Correct. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, and what is your participation in this?
We design the plans.
Okay,
He's our on-call engineer.
okay.
Right.
Yes.
You said June 5th, right?
I'll confirm that with Jesse, but I was carbon copied on an email.
Okay.
I do remember thinking time was of the essence, but we had enough time for you to properly review it. We weren't in a rush for action today or anything of that nature.
What do we have in special road and bridge? What do we have in special road and bridge in that fund? That's where like the Wall Street repavement and things that way have came out of, correct, Jim? In the
We're asking for the
equipment reserve. I'm not, I don't think it was probably in the budget.
Well, we moved the road, what we was gonna resurface to this, didn't we? Because of this grant,
To match up, yes.
to match with the grant.
that special road and bridge is currently sitting at 1.242.
Okay.
Is this something that we had on our radar that was coming through? Okay. So is Todd usually the one that does the surfacing?
So on these larger projects like that, we have gone out to bid with
Okay.
Vance, right? What,
Vance Brothers is one, and then,
That is.
Bettis, yep.
Bettis, yeah. whoever bids on it.
Okay.
They're the ones that did the Wall Street.
And KDOT will handle the bidding process. Like it'll go out through their monthly bid letting, so you'll have access to the contractors across the state. It'll be well publicized.
Okay.
Another aspect to this project is that we are putting in road closed gates for if the road's inundated with water, that there'll
Right.
be a safer way to close it.
That'll be good. Will they go on down into the ditch so they don't drive around it?
They do for safety reasons. We had to offset. They
What? That's what happens. They get moved.
with that said, to address that directly, it only closes one side of the road because there are people that would be landlocked. So it's only the driving side. You can very easily drive around them. However, the county has fulfilled your obligation of due diligence to close the road.
Okay.
However, physical barriers would cause, there would be people that could be in danger.
Okay.
So that we did only put them on one side. They will not be chained or anything like that. It's kind of a tension mount, so they're not a impediment, more
Okay.
of a warning.
I got you.
So is your company road safety engineer?
Pardon me, ma'am?
Does your company contain, are you a road safety engineer?
I am.
Road design engineer? Okay, so are you advising the county on this contract to make sure we're conforming with the MUTCD and those types of things?
Correct. We redrew up the plans.
Okay, and so then the additional inspection that we need pursuant to that paragraph that you pointed out would be inspecting your work type of a thing, or that inspection is something
So
that you all do?
Our work has been inspected by KDOT. The actual plans has gone through a review and approval process.
Okay.
So that we've reached final plans. They're ready to go out for letting. The next process, KDOT goes through a selection process. The county is involved in that process, but it's not as though you go out and directly hire an inspector. You'll have to go through it's called a qualifications-based process.
Okay.
We would love to be your inspector. However, we will have to go through that formal process.
I understand. I'm just wanting to know who's advising the city on the front end, the county on the front end of that.
We
Is
are.
that you?
Yes.
Okay.
But it has to be put out for a bid process in order to have the inspector on site.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
We'll go through a process similar to the contractor.
Do they have anything else?
Just putting it on the agenda for next week.
I can be. You bet.
I don't care if he's here, if.
I don't know.
I'd like to be here in support of Jesse.
Oh,
So he is the point man in KDOT's eyes for the project. So
Sure.
Okay.
You're welcome to come back. I just didn't know if you want a timer.
we're actually doing inspection work right out here right now. So we're working with Bettis, and I think you got Kilo starting next month. So a lot of asphalt work in your area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next weekend.
Great.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
For the time for next week. We have his. Gabe, do you have a contact so she can let you know the time that we put you on the agenda? Like a card, you have a card or?
I do not.
Uh,
I reach out to Jesse or whoever.
Okay.
We also have digital copies of the contract you may want, or
Does Jesse have the digital copy?
he does. I'll send him
We'll
an
get it.
email, with all of this.
Okay. Sounds
Perfect.
good. Thank you.
But I do say he's been really working hard to get all the boxes checked, and he had to jump through some hoops and take some classes. So my hat's off to him and making this.
Thank
Good.
you.
That's-
Perfect.
Thank
That's
you,
good to
Gabe.
hear. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You have anything else besides Scott? Scott Lloyd?
Morning.
I usually do this on the first one, but I'm away, so I thought it'd be a good way to kind of show you some things.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Do you want some, you're the county?
Yeah, she.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. There's some extras here that you can use. Good morning.
Good morning.
I wasn't sure how you wanted me to do this, but I brought these pieces of paper. This is about budget preparation for the county. And my name is Scott Lloyd. I've done this for 42 years. I was in a very large firm that I own part of, Swindle, Jensen, Hawk, and Lloyd, McPherson, Kansas. And no one wanted to take over the government practice. So at age 60, I took a bunch of kids with me. And so we're a remote firm all over Kansas, 14 of us, one in Denver, and showing these younger kids how to do government. So what you have before you, you have we'll go in the order kind of that we would do this. What I gave you today is kind of the paperwork that we would actually work with when we meet with you. So I started doing this part about 4 years ago, the slide part. And I know there's a lot of fire pictures on the front there, but what I do is I actually come in and would actually have about a 3-hour training with all department heads. And the reason I started doing that about 4 years ago is because the more they know how their budget works, the better it is for the commissioners, so that, you can kind of work together on things. And right now I do 4 counties. I had two that actually are going to do their own. And so that's kind of what happens. And that's something Danielle had asked me to kind of explain is I can come in. I've done Marion County's budgets the first year since 1990. I've not done Marion County's because they got a new administrator. They never had an administrator before. Or I can do like Marshall County. I did it for 2 years after the county clerk stole about $400,000 and no way could do the budget. So what I did is I trained the deputy that became the clerk for 2 years on this process that we're gonna kind of go through here. So there's a lot of different ways that I could help here in Linn County. So I'd come in, I would do that training. The next step would be to get up to speed and understand your county. I went through and put this Excel spreadsheet together. I do this anytime I take over a new client. And there were 2 years that I believe it was on the mill levy side we couldn't find, but the rest of it has a 7-year look back. And the reason I do that is because I want to understand where you've been and where you're at today. And so if you look on the front page, page 1, that is unencumbered cash. Now, I will have to say that you in Linn County, your cash is in very good shape. There's a lot of counties and cities across Kansas right now that are really going to be struggling with the revenue neutral rate, with COVID money all gone, and they're going to be hurting for cash. I have a county I just took over there, and that's the reason I do these sheets. In 17, they had 1.5 million in their general fund. As of the end of 24, they have 103,000. It's a half a month's expenditures in the general fund. So there's some that are really struggling. But you can see here, without getting too far into the weeds here, the circles, and I started going down the 23 column, but it's actually the 24 column I was looking at. When I circle it, that means your cash is less than the 7-year average. So in most counties, when I do this, actually almost every one of those funds will be circled. Yours has 4. If you see that in the 24 column and column C, So that's a good thing, okay? Then if you flip over to the next page, this would be the receipts. So I do two things on this sheet. Again, I circle if you're less than the 7-year average. So there's a few that you have. Some of them are down in the fire districts and maybe the special machinery. So you can see down at the bottom there. The other thing I do on this one is on the very bottom, I take the difference between your receipts and expenditures to see if you've spent more or, than you received or not in each year, because if that's a trend, you're going to end up with less cash. It's kind of like at home, okay? But you have I don't know what happened in 2020 there, but 16 million over. But anyway, that may just be an error. We pulled this pretty quick so that you could see it.
That would have been like the jail.
That's what, yeah, over there. Okay. The next page is the expenditure page, and you can see, and this would be true in most governments, everyone's circled because that you've spent more than what the 7-year average. You see that on page 3. And that's pretty typical because in 2020 till about, this last year, costs have went up, 30%, 35% in some organizations. So that's just going to be natural. And that's why most people, if they stay at revenue neutral, most people will not have cash because you're going to spend, your expenditures have went up because of inflation. And so that's a trend that you kind of watch to make sure that's not happening. Page 4 is just a mill levy. Kind of look and see where your mill levy's been over the last, we didn't have 2 years that we couldn't find, so 19 and after. And so you're setting it revenue neutral, it looked like, from last year. And that it's a little bit over, revenue neutral, a little bit over what the average is, because I would assume just looking at your numbers here, if you look at the line 45, 44, your assessed value has went up almost $100 million since 19.
Right.
Which I was really shocked when I pull all these numbers. I'm not sure, I was talking to these guys a little bit just about corporate, like a manufacturing, but it seems like most of yours is ag and residential. Is that most of what?
Except for almost 60% of ours is Evergy power plant.
Evergy power plant. Okay, so that'd be the part. Okay, so yours is a fairly large assessed value compared to
Correct.
Some counties.
Correct.
And then the last thing I do, this is just Scott Lloyd's version. My dad was a banker for 56 years in Sedan, Kansas. We owned part of a bank growing up. And some of you are younger, but may not have done this. It's credit cards today, but 3 to 6 months of expenditures in your savings account. So about 20 years ago, I started looking at that for governments, mainly cities and counties. Schools, it doesn't work on because the state kind of regulates that. But cities and counties, it works awesome because you can't go get a line of credit. So this last page, page 5, this is 23. We didn't have all of 24's numbers. But what this does is it takes the column B is the unencumbered cash at 23. Column C is the total expenditures, and then we divide that by 12. So column D is your monthly expenditures by fund. And then 6 months is, I usually look at the general fund trying to get 6 months there and 6 months in your road and bridge fund, because those are two funds that take a lot of operating costs, okay? And then what's next is the expected cash reserve at December 31st, and then the difference between the actual and the expected based on either 3 months or 6 months. So if you have a circle one on the right, that means that there is less than 3 or 6 months in that fund, okay? And that is really, I've used it probably for about 20 years now. It's really a good way to track your unencumbered cash and make sure that you're not overspending. But anyway, that's one thing I do. And then the other thing we do, and then I'll tell you a little bit about how the calendar works, and then you can ask any question you want. The other one is your 25 budget. And it's a little thicker, and there's a lot of red on it, but I had one of my staff, and these are copied right out of yours. So some of these pages are a little bit smaller, but if you go over to, I was just going to ask you real quick on page 8, it's the debt schedule. I assume, is some of this debt I assume this debt schedule is probably the new just,
Yes.
okay, and it's sales tax driven.
Correct.
And it sounds like it's, you house out of county prisoners or US Marshal or.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that, I was just wanting to double check that. So if you look over on page 11, this would be like the general fund. And this is just kind of an example of, so we would have, I'm just going to kind of tell you now how it goes. So we would have the training with the department heads, get them up to speed on those PowerPoints, and we would actually give them a copy of this budget, just like this, okay? And we would go through it pretty well by fund and explain how your budget works, so they understand more than just their own department. So like, for example, there, I've written there, I went out and I'd written this morning. So the interest on idle funds seems a little low for the amount of cash you have in your different funds. Okay. And so there's a statute that says that you shall have any idle fund, you shall be able to invest them in the 90-day T-bill rate. So my dad being a banker, they don't like to give any more interest than they had, because the spread, that's how they make their money. But the statute says that you shall get up to the 90-day T-bill rate. And that can be quite a bit different. When we came out of COVID, that's the only thing that kept some counties having extra money because of the revenue neutral and some other thing, inflation and all that. So that's just something I would circle. I go through and just really tear your budget apart. This one we did so quickly. Like if you look on page 13, this is the way that it was electronic. So I can't read the departments there, but we would put each one on a page so you can actually track the departments. The other question I had on your road and bridge, are you a county unit or a township system?
County unit.
County unit? So you're in charge of all the roads in Linn County? Okay, perfect. Okey doke. Because that does make quite a bit of difference. The other thing that, and I didn't have time to go back and look at all this, but where it says, every time we circled in the very right-hand column at the very top is the unencumbered cash for your 25 budget. And you'll see that, and then I have 1/125 out to the side. The reason that's important is when you're doing the budget like last summer, but when you come around to January 1st, was that estimate that we showed up there in the right-hand column, where is it compared to your cash balance at 1/125? Okay. Because that can make a lot of difference. So like, give you an example. If we can go back here real quick. I think I can find it, because I think the general fund first page was, so if you go back to page 10, and I don't have it circled. Well, I guess I do. On page 11, Lauren circled it. So if you see that 5,152 in red, and let's just say that number when we got to 1/125 was 6 million, okay? Then that's a good thing, because you have about 900,000 more in cash than what you estimated. But if it's the other way, then that's a problem.
Right.
Because you already have a trend that you spent more than what we had anticipated. But anyway, I've made notes. I just wanted you to have these. I'm not going to take a lot more of your time. I just want to kind of show you some of the things that we do there. So the time schedule, how it works typically is we'd have the training, and that really there's no special date about the training. The next step would be I actually come in with all the department heads on your meetings. I don't know how you've done it in the past, but we actually for the entire day. And so, or whatever time it takes. So you'd start at 9 and we just meet 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it takes for each of the departments. I hear every conversation when they're presenting it to you. I interject. It's an incredible training process. That's the thing that has really helped not only department heads, but actually like Danielle, where she's newer, and it might be 1 year, it might be 2 years. I've done it in some places. Some I just keep doing it. Like Ottawa County, I'm on my 4th year, and they like the input. So that would be the next step. And then once they make all their proposals, I take those back and actually put those in the budget. Come back to the next meeting, and that next meeting could probably take as much as 3 to 4 hours because we go through every one of the department heads proposals and then see how it impacts the entire budget, but see how it impacts and where they're at compared to the last 2, 3, 4 years. Okay. And then from there, it's more just whatever questions you have, come back. I can either call you or Zoom you. I assume you Zoom, but just however you want, or here in person. And usually this whole process, the training, outside the training, probably the rest of the meetings is somewhere around 5 to 7 meetings that I will be involved with. And the last one being the hearing. If you're revenue neutral, then you would just have your budget hearing. And then I would actually come to those in case there's any questions. And then we help finalize the budget, get it into Danielle, we get it into the state of Kansas, and we'd be done. So that'd be kind of the process. The price was, I don't know if she told you, but is $25,000. And I've had that price for probably 15 years. I've never increased it. I want to help. And most of the time, the way I get involved is the county clerks, the county treasurers, and I've not been as county commissioners much, but I speak a lot. And so that's how we end up getting a lot of the jobs, because I've done this forever. I train them with the clerks, like for example, through the county clerks certification program at WSU. So I work through there and help them with training. So that's how I got involved. I've talked really fast, but anyway, that's kind of a big picture. And there's no, unless I would get into really a very unique situation, like let's just say the jail hadn't been built and you wanted more help in understanding how the finances on that worked, there might be a special project like that, then that would be over and above the 25. But hardly ever have I ever charged.
The 25,000 is just for the budget.
Yeah, just taken from department training all the way to finalizing the budget. And you can call, I don't keep track of all that.
We have townships too that our clerk helped with the budget, and I've had phone calls since we have a new clerk.
Yep.
I was asking about it. Would you help with that too?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to do that. Osage County, which is just over here south of Topeka, till 2 years ago, I actually went through with my staff and we did all 40 of the township cemeteries and all the special districts. The state of Kansas used to do that quite a bit, and even some of the retired ones come out and do it. I don't know that they're doing it much anymore. So I can help at any level, or my staff. We still do several at Osage, but they're paying on their own. So like if a township budget, maybe it's $1,200, just to help them do because some of those are actually pretty challenging. You have to get the records. And the hardest thing with doing those is they're not full time. Right. So trying to get them, to get the information to us and all that, or help with that's the most challenging. But we do several of those.
So it's just so much each township then?
It can do 2 ways. County can pay for that time on a set time, or we can have we send a contract to each one that wants help.
And I mean, I think they turn in their stuff and it just kind of flows through on our budget. Does that?
So the fire districts look like they flow through on your budget. If you look on the back here, I left those in there. I think it's last 5 pages or so, starting on 30. 29, 30. Okay, 30. This would be like the rural fire districts and their funds. And this is done sometimes, and actually cemetery. Since revenue neutral, sometimes this didn't flow through, but the townships, these are like cemeteries. You only have like a couple cemetery districts, do you know? Or are those the only ones that actually report through, it looks like?
Through us.
You must have several cemeteries.
More than 2 cemeteries.
Yeah, you got more than 2 cemeteries, I'm sure. So any of these, the reason that's important there on that back part, any of those that file with you do not have to do their own publication.
Right.
Because it's called a consolidated budget. Okay. And that saves them cost. And usually it's the smaller ones. Townships, you can't do that. They stand on their own. But like the fire districts and cemeteries, sewer districts, those like that can file through on a consolidated budget. If they file their own, then they have to publish their own, they have to have their own hearing. But if they're consolidated, they actually come to your hearing in case there's any questions.
So that wouldn't be an extra charge then?
No, I would just do that as part, I just do those as part of the,
Can
part of
you
your county.
confirm that with, just make sure that that's accurate with our districts, cemetery districts? That we wouldn't have to be charged extra if that was
For
included.
the
him
townships
to
and
work with us on
cemeteries to see
townships.
where we're at with that.
Show him everything that we have with townships and cemeteries, so he knows what
Yeah.
he's getting into before.
And know where we're at.
Yeah, so like on the townships, that would be an extra, that would be extra, because those can be,
But our townships run our cemeteries. So
Not necessarily.
not all of them, no.
not all.
Sometimes there's a cemetery district, usually there's a cemetery district that stands on its own. And you have your own mill levy and everything. There are some townships that have a fund or a township, like a fund inside their township that is actually the cemetery. It kind of depends. I haven't looked at yours on that, but there's a lot. You probably have, I'm guessing, probably between 30 and 40 of those types of districts.
Right.
Yeah. And those aren't too bad, to do, but when you're brand new, that can be a challenge.
Do you have an average cost for what you charge?
Yeah,
for
I just said earlier that like a township might be, it kind of depends. Since you're a county unit system, your townships are a lot smaller. They don't typically have a special road fund.
Correct.
Like Osage County is a township system. That's why those townships are a lot more expensive, because you have to work up the road fund on all of them. But on these, I just have to look and see what your budgets look like on those. And, but I would guess it's probably going to be anywhere from 750 to 1,000.
That's what the entire budget is for some of these townships.
Yeah, I'd have to look at them. Most of them are pretty small. So,
Also, that's not a required service. We don't have to.
Look into those.
County's budget doesn't have to be obligated to assist.
mhm.
And there are other options of assistance for the townships that I have connections with.
Yeah. Yours, I wouldn't be as worried about trying to get somebody else to do them if there was somebody, like she says, that can do them, because they don't have the road funds. If they have the road funds, that can get fairly complicated. Yeah.
Road funds would all be through the county.
Yeah, I'll go through the county. But you can look it over, give me a holler, after you've looked the stuff over. I think I give Danielle probably, one clerk told me, I was at Pratt the other day, county. She said you'd talk to her. So you can call the other counties. And right now, I just picked up Brown County. Their clerk didn't want to do it anymore.
So once you have your training, and then we'll do all of our budgets in a day, is what you're saying,
Well, the meetings with the department heads.
Yeah.
It just really works well that way, because then once they all have come in and met, now some may not be able to meet that day, so they would get the information. They may come in and meet with you another day, but they get the information to us. But that next time I come back, it's really nice to have most of them in there, because then you know where you're at.
Right.
Okay, this is where the budget's at. And there's a lot of, I'm trying to tell you stuff in about 20 minutes here. But I have these, there's a new, it's called the Government Finance Officers of America. So last year they started putting together this reimagining budgeting, and they're excellent articles. So like I noticed your capital improvement fund has no really activity in it in the budget, but that's something I'm really pushing across the state. The statute says that you should, if you adopt one, you have a 5-year plan in place. And what's nice about that 5-year plan is it kind of helps you with some of these larger projects, larger piece of equipment and all that, and it flows. I noticed you have a special equipment fund, which is awesome. Does that work? How does that work? Are you identified? Is each department identified in the special equipment fund as how much they have?
Correct.
And once it comes to that fund, do you have total control over it, or do they still have control? They can make recommendations, but does the commission?
We got control over spending it though.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it usually is.
Yes.
Yeah. So the special equipment fund is typically, trucks, graders, that type. And since you're a county unit system, you would have a larger road and bridge equipment list. You have the special machinery fund, you have that. So you'd have a larger. A lot of that stuff is just, you have to learn, each county is different. And so you kind of have to learn, how yours works. But from what I just glanced at here to get everything ready for today, it looks like you've done a great job in running your county. You have a lot more cash than most, and I don't mean that bad. It's around the 6 months. That one the other day, a half month in the general fund, that's scary. And they don't want to raise it next year. And I don't know how they're going to do it, because what happens right now is they had a capital improvement fund of $2 million. In that capital improvement, special equipment, or risk management, those are 3 funds you can set up to help manage your general fund. But they have capital improvement of $2 million. They want to transfer that back to keep the mill levy the same. Well, you can only do some of those adjustments one time.
Right.
At some point, you've got to actually, the rubber's got to hit the road, and you've got to say, if we're going to do this, this is what's going to happen. And this county is going to be a very difficult county. They're brand new, and they're the ones that's got the 103,000. They're out of cash in the general fund. So they're going to have to either raise their mill levy or use some of that, and that's just a one-time adjustment. So those are the types of things we get into in discussions, but it's ultimately your decision based on what we talk about.
What do you guys want to do?
You can think about it. You can give me a holler. You don't have to tell me today. But we need to make a decision probably in the next. I just saw today the email came out. The state workbooks are out, which is the Excel spreadsheets. And what that means is means we can start putting all the information in the Excel spreadsheets to start working on budgets. So that just
One-time charge of 25,000 for your services for the county portion of it, with the township and the cemeteries will be extra.
Yeah, I'll look at them before I make that judgment call. I want to look and see, Danielle and I can look at and see what those look like. Or if you wanted to, just, like she said, if you want to put our name in that pool of people that would work on your, townships or cemeteries or whatever, and just say, this is our price to do. And what I could do is probably look through those budgets, and I could probably just list pretty close to what that price would be on each one of them. And then they can make a decision on whether they want to go with another people or our firm.
Okay.
But those are decisions we probably need to make here in the values will be out. They have to be out typically by June 15th, but sometimes they'll come out earlier, and the earlier the better. That's because when I have that second meeting with you, I want to hopefully have the assessed value, so I know where your mill levy's at based on what we've put in the information.
Right.
Okay?
Do you want to make a decision next week, or do you want 2 weeks, or what do you want to do?
I'm
I say
fine
next week.
Next
with
week.
Next week, but get with her this week on cemeteries and townships.
I
Okay.
agree.
Give us a total price.
Total price. Okay? Total price, no matter if you or they are paying, just whatever that price is on those extras.
Yeah.
Okay.
On what it's going to take for the township.
And we're talking about the ones that we already do,
The ones that we have.
not the ones that aren't.
Previously participating.
Correct. Right?
The ones that David did before. Yeah.
That's what I'm
And David's the former clerk?
correct.
Yeah. Okay. Just give you, and that's not scary or anything, but Osage County, where we did the 41, and they were townships that had special road funds, so they had a lot going on. But between those and the cemeteries, it was about 30-some thousand dollars, 37 probably. Because each one, it averaged out about 1,000 apiece. Now, some of those were almost 2,000 because they literally had like a road and bridge fund inside the township. Those are totally different townships than what you have.
Just look into it with her.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
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 Thank you.
One of my employees that worked for me at the big firm for 32 years, he said he knows her, Jan Jackson. They lived west of town. Her dad was a hog farmer. She worked for me for 32 years, one of the hardest working ladies I've ever had, and one of my best friends. But she didn't come with me on the Lloyd group. She wanted to retire.
She was in my wife's class.
Really? Oh, that's crazy. Anyway, small world.
Yep.
But if you have any other questions, then you'll have her reach out and I'll try to get you some, you'll meet next Monday at the same time?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll, probably by end of the week, we can come up with some of that, okay? Okay.
Sounds great.
Thanks,
Thank you,
thanks for the
Scott.
opportunity. Have a great day.
You too.
Anybody have anything else?
Well, we have a
One more executive session regarding public works for non-elected personnel.
How long?
For job performance. What? 10 minutes.
I make a motion, we go in executive session of 10 minutes for non-elected personnel for job performance.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll return at 12:18. No action?
Did have action. No?
We don't have action from executive session.
I'll make a motion that we allow Jesse Walton, Public Works Interim Administrator, to allow overtime this week
Week-to-week basis.
on a week-to-week basis.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and I'm still working on trying to get my spots filled on the planning and zoning. So that we're getting the board back to its full strength.
Anybody else have anything?
I don't have anything.
Jacqueline, do you have anything? Barb? I'll make a motion. We adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye.